Hi, I'm Katie Sky and welcome to my channel and welcome to the island of Moondrop. This is my slow mode island and let's get started. This is the area we're working on today. It's rather large. It was not supposed to be this large to start with, but this is me we're talking about. I can't help but to go way overboard, as I'm sure you're aware by this point. And today's video is in collaboration with several other amazing Animal Crossing content creators. I will have them all linked below, so make sure that you check them out. And this is a collab for Disability Awareness Month, which is the month of July. And if you've been on this channel for any amount of time, you know that I have ADHD. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about during this video is ADHD, my kind of journey with ADHD, and all of that kind of fun stuff. And while I talk your ear off about ADHD, you're gonna watch me build this cute little mushroom forest. So strap in. I hope you're ready. So what is ADHD? ADHD stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. Now, that name can confuse a lot of people, which is understandable because of the word hyperactivity. Hyperactivity doesn't always mean like you're bouncing off the walls like a lot of people think of when they hear ADHD. That's not what everybody experiences. That's what a lot of people will think of immediately because, you know, for a long time, people didn't believe that a girl could have ADHD because we weren't necessarily bouncing off of the walls, because our hyperactivity tends to be internalized, which could potentially be because of, you know, this society and how girls are kind of more taught to disappear into the background. We won't get into that. That'll send me on a whole other tangent. But our hyperactivity can tend to be internalized, like I said, which means our thoughts are hyperactive. They're always going. It's a million miles a minute. So many different things going on at once. Like any given time, I'm thinking about 10, 20 different things. You know, it's just like ping-ponging all around in my brain. And I can't shut it off. Like literally. My brain never stops. I'm always thinking about something. I'm like, oh, I need to do this, or I need to do that, or, ooh, what about doing this? Like, it doesn't stop, which can create a lot of issues with sleeping. So I have really bad insomnia. I have really bad exhaustion. That's something that's really common with people with ADHD because our brains are always going and we can't shut them off. So it makes it really hard to go to sleep at night and to be able to ever truly relax, which being able to truly relax and shut your brain off is really important for your body to be able to kind of like recharge. So I'm perpetually exhausted at all times, and it's because of my ADHD. So the main things that people kind of think about when it comes to ADHD is hyperactivity, right? Forgetfulness. We can be really impulsive, very disorganized, quick to anger, quick to frustration. Obviously, we can be hyperactive, whether it's physically hyperactive or in your brain, where your brain's constantly going. We can be more likely to make careless mistakes or to be impatient. Some even are very risk-taking type of personalities. That's not me. Excessive talking, that is me. When I was younger, I would not stop talking. I was such a chatterbox. Like, that was one of my main ones. And then obviously you can get easily distracted, you know, looking out the window when you're in class, just like daydreaming. That was a big one for me. I couldn't sit near the windows. When I was in junior high and high school, that's when I really started to learn like what worked best for me. And that was sitting in the front of the class, away from the doors and windows, and being medicated. Now, not everybody wants to be on a stimulant type of medication. I'm not one of those people. It helped me so much when I was in junior high and high school. High school especially. Like, high school was, especially the last, like, couple of years, when I was had a really, really structured life because of all of the activities I was in and all of the classes and, all the high school stuff. So it was really structured, and structure is really good for people with ADHD. So high school, the last couple of years was pretty easy for me. I was honestly just flying through because I was doing my homework for one class and another class because I could still concentrate on what the teacher was teaching while I was doing this other thing, which is one of the superpowers, as people like to call it, of ADHD, is we are really good multitaskers. I don't necessarily like when people with ADHD are told that their ADHD is a superpower, because we can hyperfixate and really like zone in on something and just blitz through a project really fast. But the number of negative attributes that this disorder, disability, whatever you want to call it, it affects every aspect of your life, and it can be really frustrating and overwhelming to deal with. But again, that's just my personal opinion. Something else that people with ADHD are more susceptible to is depression and anxiety and like mood type disorders. We're more likely to experience depression and anxiety in our lifetime compared to somebody that doesn't have this disorder, which is fun. No, it really isn't. My first experience with depression happened when I was around 13 years old, I believe. My parents had just gotten divorced, and I decided that I was not going to do my schoolwork. And I loved school up to that point, but to me, that was, I think, the only way that I could rebel, or what it was the only thing I had control over at the time. Like, I can just choose not to do my homework. And so that was kind of my rebellion. I wasn't very good at rebellion. But looking back, a lot of the reason why I did that was because I just had no energy. And it's because I was depressed, which caused my energy levels to drop. And I just had no want or care to do anything that I was supposed to do, that I needed to do, that I wanted to do. So that was my first experience with it. I didn't know what it was at the time, but looking back, it was definitely my first experience with depression. And the next time that I kind of really dealt with depression was when I was in high school. I believe like a senior in high school. Yeah, it was the year I graduated. And my family started having some really, big issues. And I won't get into that, but it was a trying time. A lot of change, which I'm not good with change. And it definitely threw me into a severe bout of depression that I don't think I crawled out of until I was close to 23, if I'm being completely real. But ever since, senior in high school, it's been pretty present in my life. It's been, off and on, depending on what's going on in my life. But I am more susceptible to depressive episodes now. I was lucky up to that point, I didn't experience any anxiety, which I would never wish anxiety on a single person, not my worst enemy. It's one of the worst things to live with, right? I started experiencing anxiety in 2020 with the pandemic and with my dad's death. So it first started with the pandemic because my dad was immunocompromised. He had cancer. And I was so paranoid of going anywhere and bringing something back. My mom, my brother, and his fiance at the time, we were all living together, and they were all either first responders or working directly with the public. And I was terrified something was going to happen to my dad. It ended up he never got COVID, but he did die a few months later because of complications to a stroke because of his cancer, in my opinion. Again, that's a whole other thing, but that made it really hard for me. I spiraled really hard after that because I was his caretaker for a while, a long time, and it definitely threw me through a very large loop. And it's honestly something I still struggle with today. Like, I don't go to many places that I'm not super familiar with because I don't know, some weird anxiety I have in my brain that is just like, I don't want to do it. That sounds like a risky thing to do. So it's something that I have to constantly work on. And like traveling is really hard for me, which I have a lot of traveling things I'm doing this year because of my authoring. So like in a few months I'm going to Chicago by myself, which is giving me a lot of anxiety. Anyways, this isn't about anxiety. This is about ADHD. But ADHD people can be really anxious people as well, is kind of the point I was trying to get to. And I don't know if you've noticed, as I've been decorating this mushroom forest, which by the way, I'm obsessed with how this came out. It's so cute. But I don't just go completely in order. I started on one end by Bam's house that I put down, and now I'm somehow at the entrance. And that's just, it's how my brain works. I started in one area and then I'm like, oh, what about this area? Let's connect that area. And so then I have to go immediately do that. It's just kind of how my brain is wired. People with ADHD, like, our brains are just wired in a very different way. And I think that we see the world differently than someone who is not ADHD kind of will. And because ADHD brains are wired so differently, people can find our behaviors and kind of what we do, some people can find them kind of off-putting, to be completely honest. Especially if someone's never been around somebody that has ADHD, it can be hard to deal with our eccentricities, let's call them, because we are wired very differently than a typical person will be. But, you know, having that differently wired brain is also really important for the advancement of our society, because if you don't have people that think differently, that work things out differently, you won't have advancements. There are a lot of major historical figures that are believed to have had ADHD or even autism, but we're just talking about ADHD in this aspect. Just based off of their behaviors and how they were kind of interacting with society. So some of those people are Albert Einstein, Leonardo da Vinci, Thomas Edison, Mozart, like a lot of like really creative people that worked differently, that thought differently. They changed our society forever, but at the time weren't necessarily accepted as they would have wanted to be. And I have no idea if that made any sense to you, so I'm sorry if it didn't. But again, it's just brains being wired differently. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just different. And some people are great when dealing with different, and people who are wired differently, some people are not. I have unfortunately had the displeasure of mainly having people, mostly friends, in my life that don't understand how I work or why I work this way, and it becomes a whole issue. There's this saying, out of sight, out of mind. For a more typical person, that's just putting clutter away, right? So that you don't have to be mentally seeing the clutter. For someone with ADHD, out of sight, out of mind means literally if it's not in my sight, it does not exist to me. And that is a big one for me. And it's not a good thing. And the main reason that it's not a good thing is because it applies to people as well. And that's probably where a lot of my issue come in. So out of sight, out of mind. If I don't see it, it doesn't exist to me. If I'm not seeing you on a regular basis, you're kind of going to slip my mind. to a certain degree. And no, it's not great. But if you're dealing with someone that doesn't understand ADHD, they haven't learned about it, they don't have it themselves, right? They are going to be really insulted that you're going to drop off the radar. Like, it's inevitable. If you have ADHD, you're going to drop off the radar at some point because you're hyperfixating, because you don't want to be social, because you're overwhelmed, you're overstimulated, or because you simply forgot that people existed. And it happens, but you're not doing it on purpose or to be spiteful or to be rude or mean. It's just an unfortunate side effect of having ADHD. So if you have ADHD, I truly believe that it's so important to find people that understand how your brain is wired and are willing to listen to you and will be patient with you. And I have yet to find that, besides like my mom and some family members are pretty chill about it and are totally understanding when I'm like, sorry, you just didn't exist for a little bit, but I'm back. But I also have family members that truly don't believe that ADHD is real. And that can be really disheartening when I literally struggle to do the most basic things, to remember to do the most basic things, right? And to then have somebody that is supposed to love me because they're my family be like, that's not real. And I'm like, no, it is real. This is what I struggle with. And they're like, no, that's not real. It's not a real thing. And it's really hard to be told what you're suffering with isn't real because I can't see it. Anyway, back to our little mushroom forest. We're just speeding through some of this pathing and the last few like filler areas before we move on to the next building, because I put 2 buildings in this build, which were definitely not needed, but I did it anyway. So it's that too much gene that I have. I just always do too much, I swear. And I'm gonna be completely honest, I kind of forgot what I was talking about. So, you know, ADHD things. For me, something that's really important when I'm talking about like my ADHD, like how I kind of handle it, because I am medicated, but I'm on a much lower dosage than I probably should be, just because medication is expensive and the number of doctor appointments that you have to go to at all times for it can be overwhelming. That's a whole other thing. But things that aren't medication that really help me is getting outside every single day. Exercise is really important for people with ADHD because it gets the dopamine flowing in your brain, which is really important for people with ADHD. And being creative. Being creative is really important to my mental health and to how just my brain operates. So I'm doing some sort of creativity every day. It's one of the things why I'm an author, because I love being creative. I love creating stories. So for me, I'm really big on obviously books, reading and writing them, but I'm also a really big crafter. I love to craft. I find it super relaxing, sometimes stressful, but most of the time relaxing. So my big ones are, I love cross stitch. I'm currently learning-ish how to embroider. I really love diamond painting. It's very satisfying to do. I've recently just completed my very first paint by number. That was a lot of fun, especially because like I'm not an artist in the way where I can just paint or draw a really beautiful picture. That is not me. I can draw you a stick figure like no other, but ask me to do like an actual person will be unrecognizable. So it's always cool to be able to do something artistic, because I have no artistic ability besides like my writing. Like that's my artistic ability. is writing. That's where it ends. And obviously, cozy games are another really big one for me. I love Animal Crossing. I started playing Animal Crossing when I was like 10, I want to say. My aunt, who I love, she had this game and she said, hey, I think you should try this for my Nintendo 3DS, I want to say. It was Wild World, Animal Crossing Wild World. I was obsessed with it. I could just play that for hours and hours on end. And I think I was playing that game on my 3DS until like 2021. And then it got packed away after I got my Switch, I think. And I started playing ACNH, which is my all-time favorite game. This game is top tier. It's like gold, the toppest tier that you could tier. It's there for me. I love it so much. It's so relaxing. There's so much creativity. There's so much creative freedom in this game, and it's amazing. And so you did just see me put the second little orange ribbon down. I had another one by Bam's house, I believe. And I wanted them by the buildings because you're going to go to those places. So I wanted them to be really visible. But for Disability Visibility Month, ADHD falls under the orange ribbon. So I wanted to be sure to include that so you know that's what this build is for. What was I talking about? Oh, Animal Crossing New Horizons. My most favoritist game that has ever existed in the cozy game, in any game sphere. I don't know that anything Nintendo does will ever top this game to me, if I'm being completely honest. But I do really like this cozy type of game where you can kind of control everything. I think we just learned that I'm a control freak. Anyway, I love the freedom and the creativity of this game, and it's just like, it's my favorite thing in the world. And I also can play this game for hours upon hours upon hours, which is good since I'm creating content for it, and you kind of need to do that to create content. So I hope this video has helped you kind of understand ADHD a little bit more. I hope that I made sense in what I was saying, because sometimes when I talk about ADHD, it doesn't quite make sense. Because it makes sense to me because that's how my brain functions and operates, but for someone that doesn't have it, they might not fully understand what having it means. And again, everyone is different. Everyone's disorder will be different. Everyone's ADHD brain will be different. And that's okay, because I'm me, you're you, and the world needs both of us. And if you have any specific ADHD type questions or questions about the build that I barely talked about through this whole thing, you can feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I will do my best to answer them to the best of my ability. And we are just gonna finish off this last little filler area right by resident services. And I hope you've been enjoying some of these collab videos, because I certainly have been. They've been a blast to do. This is probably gonna be the last one for a little while, just because I need to get caught up on other stuff with my channel. And you know, I mentioned earlier that I'm gonna be doing some traveling for my author stuff pretty soon, so I'm gonna have to really be doing that. So, and now that we have Able Sisters down, we are done. I hope you enjoyed today's build. Let me know what your favorite parts of this massive build were. Again, thank you for allowing me to just ramble on about ADHD. If you liked the video, please go ahead and leave a like, subscribe if you like this type of content, and oh, look at cute little Bam. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!